and I have the distinct privilege, honor, and pleasure of being your host for today's My Hair, My Health, Celebrating Beauty from the Inside Out 2020 virtual conference. Yay! We are so glad that you have joined us today, and we promise that you are in for a treat as we discuss practical solutions and tips to help you, to help me, to help all of us reclaim our glow. And to get started today, we have a fantastic presentation for you, and that will be coming from Mrs. Nakomi Higgins. Let me give you a quick introduction to who she is. Nakomi Higgins, also known as Nikki, is a well-respected coach, psychotherapist, and passionate communicator. She is determined to make a positive impact in the lives of women around the world. She has had the good fortune to have a varied and rich life, not free from adversity, but shaped by it. Through the use of humor and storytelling, Nakomi speaks to educate, empower, and evoke connection. More importantly, she speaks to dismantle fear. Nakomi is one of few mental health professionals of color who hones a background specializing in treating eating disorders and negative body image among women of color. Mrs. Higgins is not only a champion of wellness, she is a noted practitioner and has repeatedly served as a guest expert on the Dr. Phil Show, a nationally broadcasted daytime talk series viewed by millions. I'm one. Now, as a wellness advocate, Nakomi values creating platforms that inspire and empower women to connect to the divinity within in order to create the best versions of themselves. So without further ado, I present to you Miss Nakomi Higgins.
Thank you so much. I am super excited. Ladies, we are going to be jumping in, and I have so much in store. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Give me 1 second. Fabulous. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So today we're going to be talking about reclaiming your mental glow. Now, if you have an opportunity, I want to encourage you to take a moment, grab a pen and a paper, because it is pretty uncommon for me to do a talk without giving you in the moment practice with some of the things that we are going to be going over. You can also follow me after the talk on the Soul Powered Coach, where I share tips, tools, and use social media as an opportunity simply to connect with others. So we're jumping in. I want to start off by saying that over the course of my own growth, over the course of developing my business and the approach that I wanted to take in this space of mental health, it became very, very clear to me that I wanted to work with sisters. I wanted to create a space in which Black women, women of color, could come and release the cape, so to say, come and sit and be and process. But more importantly, it is so important for me to support my clients in dismantling ways of doing and being and thinking that no longer serve them. So while we're going to be talking about tools and tips that will help you reclaim your mental glow, we're also going to be looking at the importance of getting oriented and not only where you stand today, but where you're trying to go. Okay. But before we do that, I want you guys to get comfortable. Now, I got my incense going. I've been doing my own breathing. I would like you guys to get comfortable for a moment, relax in wherever you're seating. And I want you to connect to yourself through the breath. Now, this is why this is so important, because so often when we are caught up in the doing and being of our day, even in a pandemic, we're not often checking in with ourselves. And that can create and promote disconnection. And so the first skill that I want to open up our discussion with is one that will allow you to connect to yourself in this very moment. And it's very simple. All you have to do is check in with yourself and ask in this very moment, how am I feeling? How does my body feel? Am I sore anywhere? What feelings am I experiencing? Again, the first step when you've gotten comfortable is simply to check in with yourself and ask yourself, how am I feeling? How does my body feel? Do I feel good or do I feel aches? Once you've done that, I want you can close your eyes or you can keep your eyes open, but we're going to go through what I like to call triangular breathing. And this is a tip and a skill that you can use every day, all day, in the midst of stress, or simply to ground yourself in an intention for the day. And the way it works is you would simply inhale to a slow count of 5, hold to a count of 5, and exhale to a count of 5. And I'll demonstrate that for you. Inhale, hold, exhale. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to practice that because, again, in this moment, it's about grounding and connecting in the moment. On the count of 1, you're going to inhale, take a deep inhale to the count of 5, and you're going to hold and exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold for a count of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to do it again. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold for a count of 5. And exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The reason this exercise is so important is because oftentimes we tell ourselves that we don't have time for ourselves, time to do anything that matters. All we can do is do. And as women, as Black women, as women who are desiring to show up in this world in the best version of ourselves, it is important that we always make time to connect in the moment and not in the things and the doing. Okay, so that's something you can do every day, all day, whenever you need it. And I recommend starting your day off with that. So when I was asked to participate in this conference, I was super, super excited because we know that in 2020, a lot of us came into this year with a vision, with hopes and dreams, and we just knew we were going to knock it out of the park, y'all. I was one of them. And instead, we were faced with adversity in ways that we simply could not have imagined. And that adversity, whether it be pandemic, whether it be being confronted once more with racial negligence, lives being taken callously, selfish anger, whether it be fear, disease, we're also in an election year. There was so much that made us stressed. There's so much that makes us angry and afraid, confused about how to move forward, about how to reconfigure our plans, confused about whether or not we will be working or not working, irritable. I don't know about y'all, but I'm a mother of 2 and my husband's also an entrepreneur. I get irritable very, very easily. Tired. We have felt lonely and sad. We have found ourselves fed up and worried, and we have also experienced trauma. Whether it is directly our personal history of trauma is coming up, or our collective history of trauma and recognition of institutional trauma. We have felt it in our bodies, in our spirits. Some of us feel stuck, and some of us feel overwhelmed. And with all of these emotions and all of these things that we might be feeling in 2020, it's important to also highlight that we may be experiencing depression and anxiety. And I always want to help my clients understand that depression and anxiety, while different, are very much the same, because it is our overestimation of the problem and our underestimation of ourselves. It is this idea that we are unable to move through our adversity. It is this understanding that we are impaired. Depression can look and feel like low motivation, fatigue, irritability, anger, sadness, hopelessness. Anxiety can feel like worry, constant worry. What if? Did I do it right? Am I doing it right? Will I ever get it right? Both are rooted in a narrative of asking, am I good enough? Will I ever be good enough? How do I prove that I'm good enough? And so it's important to spend some time in this space, because while we may call it different things, we have to name our opponent moving forward. And what I like to teach my clients is naming your opponent also empowers you to declare authority over your circumstances. Okay? So we don't just do regular therapy when we're working together. We're talking about purpose. We're talking about courage. We're talking about release. We are talking about vision. And these are just obstacles that we have to overcome. Okay? So in the midst of the turmoil, in the midst of the difficult emotions that we are entitled to feel, what I also see women doing in this year is leaning into a conversation about their health and their wellness and growth, and not asking for permission to do so. No longer are we okay with sucking it up and being okay. No longer have we settled for simply allowing ourselves to be the holders and the carriers of everyone's burdens. At the onset of this year, it was super, super cool, because my business is predominantly geared towards women of color. And I would say about 98% of my business is made up of Black professional women. Now, I am in Southern California, not the South. I declared that I would create a space for us that understand and understood and recognized us. And in the years that I have opened my doors, sisters have poured in with open hearts and minds, ready to fight for themselves and to release. And I have seen that number increase, not only when we came into the new year, but as soon as this pandemic, as soon as our movement towards wellness, our movement towards our lives mattering picked up, more and more women said, I'm not okay with not being okay. I want to feel better. I want to release. I want to move forward, and I want to grow. And so despite all of our challenges, we are leaning towards and into a conversation that promotes our wellness. So the good news, ladies, is despite everything, now is the time to reclaim. Now is the time to release. Now is the time to sow, and now is the time to get oriented. And that's what we're going to spend some time talking about today. I want to take a moment to actually look at this word reclaim. To reclaim is to bring forward things to cultivate. It is to bring back. And I want you to think for yourself, what is it that you would like to reclaim moving forward? Now is the time to release. What is it that you have been holding on to that heavies your spirit? What is it that you hold on to that impacts and affects the way you want to show up in this world? What would you like to release? The other is so. Now, this is a really important message that I want you guys to connect to, because we are entering into the season of sowing. And what sowing means is to scatter seeds. To translate that into our real life, sowing is the season of sowing effort into ourselves, effort into others, effort into the things that we are passionate about. What do you want to sow? Because see, we came into this year with this idea of launching and thriving and doing, and we were met with a different plan. And that plan sent so many of us into chaos, right? Or this confrontation, this resistance, this reality sent so many of us into chaos because we didn't see it coming. And what I had to really help, not only myself, but a lot of my clients understand, is that when you are met with a certain level of opposition that may hinder your ability to move forward, then you shift gears and you focus on, how do I then sow? How do I invest time into myself, into my family, into my business, into my career? But how do I sow in effort with the understanding that there will come a time when I get to reap the benefits? Okay, I hope that makes sense. So as we're entering into this new season, we have to understand that we are simply to focus on what we want to see come forth in the new year. And that might just require us to rest and to be right now. And now is also the time to get oriented, okay? So when I talk about getting oriented, and when my women come on board and we start to do our work, I always ask, what is your valued direction? And the reason why I ask them what their value direction is, and not simply their goals, because goals can make us feel limited. Goals can sometimes make us feel like there is only one way to achieve them. And while that is true in many cases, about a value direction is a path. It is something you are moving towards. It creates space for you to open up your understanding of what matters to you. As the very well-known psychotherapist Carl Jung has once said, your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart. She who looks outside dreams, and she who looks inside awakens. And ladies, we are in a place in our time where I strongly believe that we're being called to heal and to release and to grow and become more than the sum total of our pain and our fears and our worries. Now is the time to look inside and awaken to who we can become and the abundance of resources that are in fact available to us. So we start with your valued direction. And a valued direction is really about asking yourselves these questions. How do I want to treat myself moving forward? What do I want to feel more? In the face of adversity or conflict, how do I want to show up? How do I want to be treated by others? And what do I want to accomplish? We can add other questions in there as well, but we'll stick with these, okay? A value direction is also rooted in your values and your purpose. Now, when you guys, log off of the call, you will be able to download my 6-step guide to creating your vision statement. And within that vision statement, there are a list of values that you get to select. And in my work, I find it very, very important to help my clients reorient themselves in their values. And the reason why is because while we are familiar with, I value love, I value education, I value hard work, what they typically discover in this exercise is that they value so much more. What they also understand is that while they are now reconnecting to their values, they're not quite sure how to put them in motion. How do I use my values? It's one thing to be aware of them. It's another thing to actually put them into use for me. And I want you guys to think about your values as you're completing that download and that activity as your compass. When we understand our values, we create a framework through which we make decisions. We create a framework for our relationships. We create a framework to pursue our careers. We create a framework for our businesses. We create a foundation of what truly matters to us. So if you are a woman that believes in acceptance and boldness, calmness, caring, cooperation, creativity, and dedication, the question I will then ask you is, how to show up each day pursuing passionately abundance, acceptance, boldness, calmness, and dedication. Does that make sense? How do you show up in a space? How do you start your day asking yourselves, what does it look like for me to be calm today? How can I operate today under the understanding that I value abundance? What would compassion look like for me? See, your values become also the way in which you will learn to talk to yourself. So one of the things that I think we can all agree is that as Black women, we are very, very good at being strong, even when we do not feel it. We are good at playing the part because that is what we have been shown is a good Black woman. There is fear around vulnerability. There is fear around uncertainty. There is fear around confusion because we have been taught and experienced and we have inherited messages that tell us that the only way that we can be safe and protect ourselves is to be strong and to be knowing, to be reliant upon ourselves and ourselves alone, to be giving of ourselves at all times, even when we don't feel like we have anything more to give. And with these responsibilities and with these messages come a voice, an internal voice that is both critical. She can be very mean. She says things like, girl, you should have known better. She says things like, how are you going to let them see you down? She reprimands us when we make mistakes. She tells us that every mistake that we have is one to hold on to. And as a result of those mistakes and our inability to forgive ourselves, we feel like frauds and imposters. Imposters in our career, because what if they find out? And so in our being and our doing, we forget a language of grace and compassion. And so when we're tapping into what your value direction is, and again, I'm going to go back to these questions. How do I want to treat myself? What do I want to feel in the face of adversity or conflict? How do I want to show up? How do I want to be treated by others? What do I want to accomplish in this life? These are questions that I ask every client that comes on board with me. We can get to the goals. I get that. We're going to get the goals. What's the direction we're moving towards, right? Because when we can understand the direction, we can then create your compass. And your compass is rooted in your values. And so, for example, kindness is my number one value. And kindness became my number one value because I lived for so long in depression. I climbed the corporate ladder. I earned the seat at the table. I had the cars, the house, the kids, and yet I felt so inadequate in my depression. And I had to find a way to breathe. And so I had to reconnect to my values. And so because kindness is my number one, I ask myself when my critic comes in, is there a kinder way that I can speak to myself? Is there a kinder way that I can treat myself in this moment? Okay, so that is me putting my values into motion. It is me using my values to shape the language in which I care for myself. But also when I am operating in my values, I am now in alignment with my purpose. Now, I want to be clear in saying, and you might feel like, okay, this is supposed to be a mental health conversation, but we're talking about some bigger things. That's how I do. We talk about the depression, we talk about the anxiety, but again, a lot of these things that we're feeling are because there's a level of incongruence. We're not rooted in what matters to us. We're not fully tapped in to our own spiritual walk. And as a result, there's gaps. And in these gaps, things penetrate our armor. Our emotional immune system is reduced. Our ability to challenge those beliefs feels compromised. We sometimes feel convinced that we are, in fact, living in times of uncertainty. Yes, there are uncertain things, but we have power to create more certainty in our lives than we give ourselves credit for. And so I'm talking about fundamental things. So when we are pursuing daily our values, we are also pursuing our purpose. And our fundamental purpose on this world is to pursue our own greatness, to pursue our own wellness, to pursue our own joy. Because in that pursuit, what happens is we become closer to our higher selves. We become closer to our spiritual selves. That is our purpose. Now, there are other things that come into that purpose, don't get me wrong, but our fundamental purpose is to pursue our better selves. And we do that through our values. Okay? And pause on that for a minute. Because what I would like you guys to do, and I want to give you about 5 minutes, I would like you to take a moment. Actually, I'll give you a little more than 5 minutes. I want to give you some time to answer these questions for yourself. So remember what I said when we started. Make sure you have a pen and paper. You may not finish all of this, but definitely let's start. And I want to give you 7 minutes to go ahead and answer as many of these questions as you can. And the time starts now. We have about 5 more minutes. If you feel stuck or you're having a hard time answering the question, that's perfectly okay. About 2 more minutes. You're going to start wrapping up. We're coming together soon. All right. All right. So I want you guys just to take a moment for yourselves and just think about what that was like for you. For those of you that were able to participate. And I also want to provide a quick recap because we're going to start transitioning into some more tips as well. So again, when we're talking about mental health and wellness, we have to allow ourselves to see beyond the discomfort that we might find ourselves in due to the current circumstances, due to the things that we simply cannot control. We have to allow ourselves to tap into what we can, in fact, control. We have to allow ourselves in these times of uncertainty to establish our own certainty. And while as women and women of color, it is clear that we are facing a number of different challenges, again, whether it be through the confusion and the uncertainty and the worry that is invoked by this pandemic, or the hurt and the pain and the frustration and anger that is invoked by the racism, the institutionalized racism, the ignorance, the people choosing to be in their bubbles, whether it is simply because our plans have been foiled by all of the stuff that has gone on. We have an opportunity to orient ourselves in our wellness. We have an opportunity to orient ourselves and better get clear on our value direction, the way in which we want to move forward. And we move towards that direction by understanding our values. And you guys will get to download that activity that will walk you through 6 steps, not only to hone in on your values, but to create your vision statement. And just on a side note, that vision statement can also be used for a cover letter. But it's to really create your vision statement. We started the presentation connecting to ourselves through the breath. And again, that was rooted in this understanding that every day we have an opportunity to take a moment out and simply connect to our life force, okay? And through that triangular breathing, in 5 counts, hold 5 counts, release 5 counts. You can even pair visualization to that, allowing yourself to say, I am going to have a good day. I'm going to have a day rooted in positive energy, rooted in my values, rooted in hope, rooted in support. And you go through those rounds of breathing each time, okay? So we're taking tangible tools and we're making them applicable to who we are so that we can move forward in a direction that serves us, right? But we also have to understand that in that process, we get to release. We get to release, or we have to learn how to release the ways of doing and being and thinking that no longer serve the women that we're trying to become, the women that we're trying to nurture and bring forth, okay? We're going to talk about how to do that. So tips to maintain that beautiful glow. So I want to just say, now is the time to reconnect to our spirit. Whether you are a woman that subscribes to a specific religious belief system, or you believe simply in a higher power, my question to you is, whether you're struggling with depression, anxiety, or just worry, how do you use or tap into your spirit, your spiritual understanding of what is greater than you to move through difficulty? A lot of times I ask my clients, what do you believe in? And I get the answer, well, I mean, I believe in God. I pray. And then I ask the question, well, how do you use your belief to heal? How do you use your belief to ground? And it gets a little blurry after that. Understandably so, right? And what I like to say is when you're reconnecting to spirit in this time of getting oriented and defining your value direction to overcome mental and emotional illness, what you're also asking is, what do I want my relationship with spirit to look like? How do I want to use that relationship? Do I only want to pray in times of need? Or do I want to learn how to pray as a means of consultation? Do I want to pray as a means of simply keeping the lines of communication open? Or do I rather meditate? And I always joke in saying that I probably meditate more than I drink water. In my line of work, it can be heavy. And I have a responsibility to my clients, to my family, and to myself to stay connected to spirit so that I understand that it's not my responsibility to fix everybody's problems. If I believe in something greater than me, then I have to also understand that that something greater is in operation. Okay. So when we are talking about tips that help maintain and allow us to reclaim our mental glow, we cannot ignore the fact that what we understand about our spirituality and our faith, whatever that might be, is a very important part of the process, a very important part of the healing. We must also reconnect to our bodies. So often we're showing up in the world completely detached from ourselves. We're eating simply because it's food in front of us. We're having intimate experiences, not always fully present in those intimate experiences because of past hurt, pain, or trauma. We have difficult feelings that we're not expressing, and therefore it's getting stored in our body and manifesting as pain. Pain in our backs and our shoulders, our necks, our heads. Reconnecting to our bodies allows us to find where we're storing energy that doesn't help or serve us, that doesn't move us in the direction of our valued way of being. Reconnecting to your body is also exercise. Now, I'm not telling everybody to go on a diet either. What I am saying is, are you looking at not only what you're putting into your body, but how you're putting it into your body? When you're taking time to eat, are you present during a meal? Or are you eating on the run? Are we treating ourselves? It's just this idea just came to me. If we are of something higher, if we are created by something higher and therefore extensions of divinity, do we move through space and time like that? Do we walk on this earth like we are powerful? Do we walk on this earth that like we are important and valuable? Okay. And then I'm just going to say this, stop resisting your growth. I see so many people wrestling with depression and anxiety and worry and fear. And what they may not understand is you may actually be given an opportunity to grow. Not may, I know for a fact you're being given an opportunity to grow. But because it doesn't feel good and it's not familiar, you're reverting back to your ways of doing and being, attempting to control and manipulate your circumstances. What I tell all of my clients when they walk through the doors, it's going to get hard before it gets good. We got to unpack that closet that you've been walking around for walking past for the past, I don't know how many years that you've been stuffing in, stuff in that closet. And now you're saying, I want to open that closet door and I want to get it organized. Well, child, we got to bring everything out. We might feel a little overwhelmed when we get it out. We might feel a little overwhelmed when we see the connections, when we see the work that we have to do. Growth is uncomfortable. And when you choose to grow, you have to understand that resistance is a natural part of that growth. And so what does that mean? It means whenever you make a decision to choose you and choose things that will further you towards your valued direction, you will be met with the energy of opposition, which by definition is simply that. It is designed to test how bad you want to grow. That's why it's hard. It's designed to test your will, your spiritual connection, your connection to your body. It's designed to test whether your value direction is really yours or the direction you think you're supposed to have. It gives you an opportunity to revise it and make it your own, to make it tangible. So I want to say, stop resisting your growth. If you want to reclaim your mental health, you want to reclaim your mental glow, wrestle and get ready to wrestle. Because unfortunately, some of the things that don't serve us anymore are also the most comfortable and familiar things that we're just afraid to let go of. Okay. When it comes to managing stress and anxiety and anger, what I'm not going to tell you to do is not feel those things. You have a right to feel them. Allow your emotions to be signs. Allow your emotions to be messages. Allow your emotions to be the things that tell you to stop and listen. So when you're managing stress and anxiety, stop what you're doing for a moment and take a moment to check in with yourself. And by checking with yourself, ask yourself, what's happening? What might have triggered this worry, this anger, this stress? What activated this within me? Breathe and center yourself. Remember, there is healing when our breath is paired with meditation and visualization. So when you've taken this moment to check in with yourself, breathe and center yourself and see yourself moving through stress and moving through the anxiety successfully. Ask yourself or reflect and reframe, is this permanent? Is what I'm going through permanent? If the answer is yes, no, or I don't know, move to the next one. Is it pervasive? That means, am I feeling this situation, this challenge in all areas of my life or one specific area of my life? The next is it personal? Is this only happening to me or is it happening to everyone? If it's happening to everyone, is it safe to say that maybe I'm not doing anything wrong? I just kind of got to roll with it. And then we shift. And I am a therapist that is rooted in action. We can't just talk about the problem. We also have to look at the ways to shift and move you towards and out of the problem, right? And so by shift, when it comes to managing stress and anxiety and anger, do you need to remove yourself from that space that is causing you the stress, the worry, the anger? Do you need to go on a walk? Do you need to exercise? Do you need rest? Do you need to start deep breathing? But by shift, I mean do. And here's something that I want to make sure I leave with you guys when it comes to this particular area. If we're looking at our value direction, and we're looking at action, you might be thinking, well, what's healthy action and what's unhealthy action? I always say you ask yourself this one question: will it move me forward or will it keep me stuck? Those two questions. If it moves me toward my value direction, then I'm going to do this thing. But if it's going to keep me stuck and comfortable, then it's not worth my time. So the question is, what will move me forward? Okay. And this is challenging. And I say this is challenging because for some of us, we're struggling with behaviors such as binge eating or purging or restricting food. We may be sleeping throughout the day to avoid conflict and worry and sadness. Our go-tos may be self-harm, drinking, sex, shopping. So we have these ways of being and doing that have once worked for us, but may not be helping us move through these types of times and may not be lending themselves to the wellness we desire. So again, shift is action. And when it comes to taking action, the question you're asking is, will it move me towards my value direction or not? Okay. Now, when you're doing too much, and by too much, you are pouring from an empty container, when you are juggling more than you feel like you have the energy to juggle, I want you to tap into these little tips. The first, take a time out for yourself. Again, ask yourself, what am I doing and who am I doing it for? Okay. In this time out, also ask yourself, do I really need to be the one doing these things? I have a lot of clients who over the years have learned or have cultivated this belief that the only way they matter is when they're doing for others. The only way they have value or importance is when they are successful, when they're succeeding, and when they're giving of their time and their energy. And that belief is toxic because it doesn't give them space to receive. It doesn't give them space to say no. And it doesn't give them space to connect to their vision. It doesn't give them space to connect to what it is that they want. And fear starts to mount and grow and raise. And this idea of not being able to give to everyone becomes a threat to their sanity. What will people think if I say no, Nikki, is what I get. What will people do if I start focusing on me? How is focusing on me not selfish? I even had one woman during a talk ask me, how is that godly? And I said, well, sis, let me be real with you. How is God accessing you if you got 15 million people in between you and God? If your job is to serve everybody else when it's time for you to do what you've been called to do, how do you have the energy to actually show up in that space? See, if we want to operate as queens, if we want to operate as empowered women, we have to treat ourselves and our time as such. Please understand that. So take a time out for yourself and get oriented. The common theme, y'all, is we got to get oriented in the midst of the storm, okay? The second thing that you can do is explore new hobbies for you. What are you interested in? I remember there was a time in my life where I worked so hard and I was so focused on growing in my career and doing all the things and being all the things and checking all the boxes that I forgot my favorite color. I couldn't remember something as simple as my favorite color. That's how disconnected from myself I became because I was so invested in others, how they perceived me, how they needed me, what they expected of me, etc. And so when you're doing too much and you're starting to feel that resentment and that frustration and that anger, and you're wondering, why can't everybody see or appreciate me? One, you have to take ownership of how you're pouring into that situation. But to shift is to ask yourself, what am I interested in? The other thing you have to do is practice self-compassion. The reality is a lot of the behaviors and the attitudes that we adopt are attempts to survive. Growing up and throughout life, we've been exposed to people, places, and situations that have forced us to make meaning in a way in which we craft survival mechanisms, whether it's I have to be perfect to avoid being yelled at, to avoid being a disappointment, or it's I have to give of myself in order to get and receive. We craft meaning to create a way to survive. And so rather than judge yourself, it's important to be compassionate and understanding. And a great way to practice that is, again, go back to your values, use your values and ask yourself, how can I be more of this today? Okay. Other tips are if you're feeling lonely, if you're feeling like you're doing so much and you're losing track of yourself, take an opportunity, take a class, join a meetup. There are some amazing meetups out there. Do something for you. Not too long ago, at the height of the pandemic, I was preparing for a class, a semester that I had to teach. I was feeling so overwhelmed and so tired. I looked at my husband and I said, I'm checking into an Airbnb and y'all can't come with me. And they were a little disturbed at first, but I put the period on the end of the sentence and was like, no one can come with me. And for 3 or 4 days, I checked into an Airbnb just to restore. He might have had a problem with it, but child, it would have been worse if I would have stayed in that house. Okay. Reconnect to old friends, but good friends. And remember that no is a complete sentence. And if you're worried about how people will react when you say no and when you assert boundaries, in many cases, they're going to act like they have a problem. And here's why. Because they benefited on your giving and doing. They benefited on you putting them first. So they have to now adjust to this new way, and it's going to be a little bit of their own resistance. But again, resistance is, how bad do you want change? And I hear it a lot, Nikki. I mean, people are going to be upset when I start to push back. Yes, they will be. Because now they are being inconvenienced. Now they are being forced to see all of the things that you have taken on. And you have a right to recalibrate. Okay. The final, oops, and I'll go back and it's our last. It is a closer look at shifting. So I give this tip to everyone. It's something that kind of came up to me when I was helping a couple in couples therapy, and it's called what, how, what, how. Now, what I want to say about this what, how is you can use it on a Tuesday, and you can use it to really think about how you want to get to your goals and just through life. And it requires asking these 4 questions. What do I want to achieve in this life? What do I want to feel today? What do I want? How do I want to get there? Okay. Do I feel like I need to go back to school? Do I need to change my job? If I'm just talking about Tuesday, do I need more rest? Right? If I want to have a good day today, do I just need more rest? What is standing in my way? And by what is standing in my way, I'm not asking you to talk about who is standing in your way. Okay? I want you to think about how you're standing in your way. It could just be the way you're perceiving a situation or thinking about a situation. It could be fear. But really ask, what am I doing that's making it hard for me to get there? And then the final is, how can I overcome those obstacles? When you identify your what's standing in your way, the final question is, how can I overcome those obstacles? And I will say, you don't have to do it alone. Whatever it is that you're striving for, whether it's releasing depression and anxiety, or finding more harmony in your wellness routine, more harmony in your relationships, more harmony in your life. Do not, I'm going to say now, rebuke the idea that you have to do it alone. There are therapists, coaches, counselors, such as myself, that are up to the task to walk beside you. With that being said, ladies, I hope you have enjoyed this talk. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in the Q&A at the end of the day. Bye.
Thank you so much, Nikki. This has been a joy and a treat. I can assure you there have been comments flying as you've been speaking, and everybody has the same thing to say. Thank you so much. You have given us the opportunity and the skills that we need to reclaim our glow and to reclaim ourselves. So we appreciate you, and we look forward to speaking with you at 3:30 at the live question and answer panel. So I encourage everyone to join us at that time. I would also like to ask a big favor of all our attendees, and it's simply this. This is just our first presentation, and you see how dynamic and practical and inspirational it was. So invite somebody to come along with you on this journey. We have a number of presentations lined up that are just as dynamic and powerful. Our registration is still open. So tell your cousin, auntie, friend, sister, neighbor, colleague, mom, dad, everyone, tell them to come on, join in, and participate in this day's events. And lastly, if by any chance you have to leave us, we're so sorry you have to go, but please do complete the post survey, because when you do, you will be entered into an opportunity drawing, and there are fantastic prizes that you will want to win. With that, we will move on to our next session, giving us an opportunity to reclaim our physical glow. So I invite you to join Marissa in the yoga session, and we'll see you there.